Dragon Warrior VII or Dragon Quest VII is a deeply misunderstood game. It's completely underrated and has been unjustifiably shunned and slandered for almost no reason whatsoever. Dragon Quest VII, in my opinion, is the best Dragon Quest game ever released. It's my favorite Dragon Quest. In my opinion, of the Dragon Quest games that I have played, is the one with the best story, the best lore, the best mechanics, the best storytelling, and in general I believe that Dragon Quest VII, you may don't think that it's the best Dragon Quest game, you may prefer 8, which is a valid opinion, but even then Dragon Quest VII is one of the best Dragon Quest games ever released. Even if you disagree with me thinking that Dragon Warrior VII on the PlayStation 1 is the best Dragon Quest game ever released, even so, you still have to admit that it's one of the strongest Dragon Quest games ever released. Throughout the years, people have slandered the mediocre people that haven't been able to sit down and play a fucking video game, have been slandering this game constantly, basically only saying bad things about the game, like it's grindy, like it's too long, like it's too slow. Oh, but the shards, the tone is really bleak, it's too dark for me, I need my Disney movies. It doesn't respect my time, it doesn't even have a story. Gaslighting and lies like that. Now, I am not saying the game is perfect, I am not saying that Dragon Quest VII doesn't have any flaws, but a lot of these complaints come from a very disingenuous perspective. Not every game, not every Dragon Quest game has to be exactly the same, structure-wise. Not every game, not every Dragon Quest game has to be telling its story in the same way, because that makes things really monotonous. Why would you want to be served the same plate over and over and over again? You eventually will get tired of the formula. Dragon Warrior VII tried to change things a bit, and it succeeded in what it tried to do. The things that make Dragon Quest VII special are the things that people complain about. If not for those things that you see as bad points, then that wouldn't be Dragon Quest VII, it would be any other fucking game, any other Dragon Quest game. The people like me that respect, that prefer Dragon Quest VII compared to the other Dragon Quest games, appreciate these characteristics of the game and think this is why this is our favorite Dragon Quest game. And the problem with this stupid mentality is that the people that don't like Dragon Quest VII for any reason now get to decide what to change in your favorite game. And throughout these years, we had 2 demakes. This game has been changed twice. This game has been changed and destroyed twice now because of the people that complain about it. Now, the 3DS version does have some good things. Some aspects of the 3DS version are good enough, but the reality is that the trade-off for those good things is things like the complete removal of the introduction of the game, the babyfication of the game. They made it for low IQs. The introduction completely gutted, the vocation system completely streamlined and destroyed essentially. The script completely babyfied for babies, censored. Many scenes of the original game don't happen in the 3DS version of the game and won't happen in the new remake either. Why is it that people that like Dragon Quest VII have to accept and conform with the idea that something is wrong with our favorite game? Why? Because the majority says so? Fuck you, you don't get to decide that. And the problem is that SquareEnix is listening to these fucking idiots and they are destroying this game. And it's not fucking fair. It's not fair. Twice you have had the chance to make an actual remake, like the one you made to Romancing Saga 2, and you refused. You keep listening to the wrong audience. These people don't like Dragon Quest VII. Why are you trying to make Dragon Quest VII for people that don't like Dragon Quest VII? Are you fucking retarded? No, You're not. You want money. You are chasing money. This is why I hate SquareEnix. This is why I hate the oligarchies. All of these companies, enterprises, fuck them all. They don't care about you. And this is why you shouldn't be a fanatic. You shouldn't be loyal to brands, to companies, to products. You shouldn't be, because this is how they treat their customers. You are worthless to them. Now, back to Dragon Quest VII, the original one in the PlayStation 1. It's still the best version of the game. All of the bad things that people say about the game is why we like the game. Now, I am not saying that some of those complaints aren't valid, because maybe they are, maybe some of them are valid complaints, but not all of them. People complain about the grindy nature of the game. Okay, that is a valid complaint, I agree. The game is very grindy, and to an extent it needs to be, because the systems of the game need to support the longevity of the story, the length of the game. It needs to, but it is true that that grind could have been shortened a bit, like they did to the 3DS version, but not by destroying the vocation system. We didn't need that shit. We didn't need that change. The game is too long. It's too slow. Now, this is a complaint that I cannot agree with, because the game lasts the time it needs to last. It's telling you a story, multiple stories. This game is special in the sense that it's not the typical game where you are following a linear path, a linear story. This game is a game that allows you to experience different angles of this story. In a sense, it's a game, people say that this game doesn't respect your time. I disagree too with that, because each time you travel to the past, to a new island, to a new continent, to a new country, you are seeing a new story. You basically start from zero again, because you actually don't know what led to these outcomes. This outcome that made in the end all of these islands, all of these continents disappear from the map. You don't know that, and you are there to find out what happened. And each and one of these stories carry their own story, their own narrative, and it's very interesting to experience each one of them. And the first time you play the game, you are going to be hooked just by that fact alone. Each and one of these stories are very interesting to listen to watch them play. These scenarios, the outcomes that are not always happy outcomes, and that is special because it makes the story believable. It makes it immersive. You are immersed in this story. You never know what is going to happen. Now, let's be honest. People complain that the game is bleak, the tone is bleak, that it's too dark. Let's be honest, this isn't Berserk. What are you talking about? It's Dragon Quest. So how dark can a Dragon Quest game be? It's not too dark. So stop being a fucking baby. Seriously, grow a pair. So even when this game isn't Berserk, you still get some really bleak, really shadowy, really dark outcomes. You not always get the happy ending, but that makes these scenarios more remarkable. You remember what happened, and then you're interested to find out how did everything ended up in the present time. So you go and search in the present. Once you solve the problem in the past, now you go back to the present and you're interested to see what happened to these people, what happened to the continent, what happened to these islands, and you see the results of your actions. You need to understand that Dragon Quest VII is actually one of those games that is an actual adventure. You're an adventurer and you are there to have an adventure. You're not there just to follow a straight line and a very linear story. You're there to find out what happened. From the beginning of the game establishes that you are going to be an adventurer. You are going to try to discover things. With the removal of the introduction in Dragon Quest VII in the 3DS version, the game already failed to set up that tone of the game. You're no longer an adventurer. You are in a hurry. You need to go to your first battle fast. I need my fucking dopamine. I have TikTok brain. What do you mean I have to do a 2 hours introduction to the game? Fuck that. I need my fucking dopamine right now. No, that's garbage. The original game established from the beginning of the game that this was an adventure, and it plays like an actual adventure. You're exploring, you're finding out what happened, you're making history in a game. In this demakes, all of that is removed. You're in a hurry. Everything has to happen fast. This is not one of those super linear Final Fantasy games. This is why I do like Final Fantasy games, but they are too linear for me. They are decent games, but in my opinion they are just way too fucking linear. I don't like them that much. And Dragon Quest VII is one of those games that isn't that linear, and it's about exploring. This is why also the shards are important. These are an important part of the game. People complain that they are too hard to find, and sometimes they are. Let's say that maybe 20% of them are pretty tricky to find. But if you give up, you can actually just search on a guide. You don't need the game to hand you these shards, because then it devalues the experience. It devalues your achievement of finding these shards. If you're told where to find these shards, if you're given the answers, then what's even the point of playing the game? Do I think that the developer should have made a more intuitive way to get these shards? Probably yes, but what they did in the 3DS version is way too much. You can basically see in the map where you are missing the shards. There is this light in the top left corner of the map that tells you whenever there is a shard in the area you are right now. What's even the point then? You're no longer exploring the game. You're no longer trying to find stuff. You're just given the things. Why care anymore? Why do you even care about the game at that point? It removes the personality of the game, which is adventure. People go as far as saying that the game doesn't have a story. How the fuck does the game doesn't have a story? Just because there isn't a linear story for babies that you're used to in other RPGs doesn't mean the game doesn't have a story. It doesn't mean that. It just means that the game wants you to find out what is the story. People complain about this about Dragon Quest VII, but then go and play Dark Souls and praise the game because it doesn't tell you enough. Basically, Dragon Quest VII does a bit more or less what Dark Souls games do with their story. It's in the background. It's not always there in your face, but you know there is a story and you have to find out what happened. That is the point of the fucking game. Dragon Quest VIII, for example, has a very linear story. You more or less also have to find out what is happening in the story, but the reality is that you're always given what is happening. You don't always have to search for anything. It's almost a straight line, and in Dragon Quest VII that is not the case. You have to explore, you have to find clues, you have to search for the way to go to the next step. People say that it doesn't respect their time. Motherfucker, you play Fortnite, you play Overwatch, you play League of Legends, you play Dota 2, you play Counter-Strike, you play Arc Raiders, you play shit ton of online garbage, you play MMOs, you play those fucking gacha games. What the fuck are you talking about? Oh, but it's a 100 plus hours game. You're playing those online games that you're probably clocking like 3,000 hours on those games, and you are complaining about a 100 hours game? You're a clown. Get real, motherfucker, because you cannot be complaining about a 100 hours game if you're playing these fake online fake competitive games that only abuse you and make you a fucking addict, that manipulate matches, etc. There you are playing those shitty games and you can sit down for 100 hours? Get the fuck out of here, bitch. What are you talking about? Get real. So the only aspect that I may agree is that the grind is too strong, especially if you go for the monster classes. The monster classes take a shit ton of time to grind them out. My final time when I finished this game was 176 hours with 43 minutes or so, and most of that time is grind. And the reason why is because I got one of my characters, I got him to a platinum slime, so it took a fucking while. And this was with a turbo in my emulator. I activated the turbo to grind battles, and even then it took me 176 hours. I understand that many people probably are going to get tired and don't want to grind that much. Well, don't use the monster classes, because the reality is that the human classes are overpowered enough that you're going to finish the game with those classes alone. You don't need to engage in the monster class system, which is a shame, and this is why I respect that change in the 3DS version. They made monster classes more accessible and they reduced the grind more or less in all the classes. All the grinding was reduced, but I don't agree with the sabotage they did to the vocation system in general. In this game, in the PlayStation 1 system, you keep your abilities. Every class you master, you keep the abilities you gain, and makes sense, all the fucking sense. It's unrealistic that you forget abilities. You don't do that in real life. If for some reason let's say you're practicing to be a chef and you end up being a really good chef, but all of a sudden you need to change careers. Maybe you now are a soccer player and you actually made it and you are actually playing soccer professionally. All of a sudden you forgot all of your skills in your chef career because you now are a soccer player? Of course not. So why do we have to accept that in the 3DS version that happens. It's bullshit. The changes they did to the vocation system in the 3DS version is just once again to butcher the game, because they are listening to the wrong people, to the ones that don't even like Dragon Quest VII. You are listening to the wrong audience, morons, and you are doing it on purpose because you want broader audiences. The modern audiences, you're chasing money and it's all you care about. Dragon Quest VII is a pretty unique game, it's a pretty misunderstood game, and it's a game about adventure, it's a game about discovering, and it's a really rewarding experience once you reach the end and find out everything that happened. But to enjoy the game, you also need to have a decent IQ, because a lot of people are not going to understand the meaning of the story. You see, Dragon Quest VII has some deep Gnosticism themes in the game, and if you don't understand that, then the less the story is going to make sense to you. Orgo Demiurge. I am going to leave it at that. So gameplay wise, the game is about finding out, exploring the adventure. The fights are pretty fun. The pixel animations are top notch. This may not be a fully 3D game, but the sprite artwork is great. The animation of the abilities oftentimes look better than what you see in the 3DS version that is fully 3D. People complain about the random encounters. Let me tell you something, idiot. Let me tell you something, you stupid moron. In the 3DS version, you don't have random encounters anymore. You see the monsters on the map. You see them roaming the map. Guess what happens when you're in a fucking dungeon? They basically copied the layouts of the original game, and then they put these roaming monsters in those exact same layouts with very narrow corridors. And what is going to happen, and it's very obnoxious, is that you're going to have to face one battle after the other, and you're going to end up missing the random encounter system, because the 3DS version throws even more battles at you because of how bad designed it is. Good luck trying to avoid encounters in the 3DS version. It's way easier to avoid encounters in the PS1 version with the abilities or the items that reduce the encounter rate. Imagine that shit. They couldn't even get that right in the 3DS version. They couldn't even get that right. Now, the newest demake, I think it's easier to avoid encounters at the very least. So if your complaint was that the original game had too much random encounters, fuck, don't play the 3DS version because it's fucking worse. And you're not going to accept that because you're a blindfolded fanatic. But that is the fucking truth. So the abilities are pretty cool to watch. They are fun to use. And another thing about this game is that it's a pretty hard game. If you are one of those people that want to rush the story, you are going to have a hard time, because as I said, so the game wants you to grind. Even though I do believe that the grind is excessive, the game supports this grind and you need to do it, because otherwise you are going to be left behind, and whenever you face a boss, it's going to kick your ass. But if you grind enough, the game is going to be super easy. That's the reality of this type of games. But at the very least, the game has a decent difficulty, so it's not baby mode either. And if you want the game to become easier, you have to work for it. You have to put an effort, and that is a good system in my opinion. It's a reward that you have to earn through your playthrough. People also complain that the class system, the vocation system, comes way late into the game, like 25 hours or so, maybe 20 hours if you are maybe a bit faster. And I understand why people don't like that, but the reality is that the game can't be any other way. It can't be, because the reason why this happens is because the developers, the original developers of this game, they knew that the game is going to be long. They knew it, so they had to put these systems throughout the game to regain momentum, to regain the attention, to recapture the attention of their audience. So if you had the ability to change vocations from the beginning of the game, you will be done with the class system probably by half the game. At half the game you will be already finished mastering all the classes. Maybe not the monster vocations, but the human vocations, yes, you will be done by that time. So they are not stupid, they knew that would happen. And even though there is a grind, if you're truly enjoying the stories, if you're truly enjoying the game, most of this grind, you're not even going to feel it, because it's going to happen naturally. Now, maybe like 60% of the grind is going to happen naturally, and the rest of the grind is going to happen artificially, because you do need to get out of your way to grind, especially, like I said, if you engage with the monster class system, which was completely removed in the newest demake. What a fucking tragedy. And they changed this robust monster class system for the lamest shit ever. Fucking accessories that give you passive bonuses. What a travesty, what a fucking disrespectful demake. Not even the 3DS version went to those lengths. In fact, the 3DS version made the monster class system much better than in the original, which is one of the few things that the 3DS version did right. It's a fucking shame that they couldn't just take the good aspects of the PS1 version and the 3DS version and make this new fucking game. And make it actually look like Dragon Quest VIII 3D in third person view. Why do we need this stupid diorama look? It looks like fucking garbage. I wish they made the remake like they did the remake of Romancing Saga 2. I wish that team was given Dragon Quest VII, because this stupid team is like the Final Fantasy VII team that are destroying that fucking game. Completely destroying, butchering Final Fantasy VII. What a fucking disgrace. What a fucking travesty. And I can relate to them because not only I also like Final Fantasy VII, and I also hate what they are doing to that game, but they are doing it to my favorite Dragon Quest game too. So in the end, like I said, the vocation system comes at the right time. You may disagree, you may don't like it, but it comes at the right time. This is one of those games that are very perfectly crafted, that if you remove one of its elements, it's going to make the whole thing crumble down. This is one of those games. This is why I wish a much better team was given this game, because this game needed someone that actually cared about it, not someone that listened to the whiny tourists that don't even want to like or want to play Dragon Quest VII. It's pretty cool when you're playing this game that whenever you see an event, whenever an NPC talks to you and says something to you, whenever you interact with an important part of the map, you can always talk to your companions and they are going to say something to you related to what just happened. There is a shit ton of dialogue in this game. Your companions feel alive. Feel like they are actually your companions. They are actually there with you. You have to inspect something in a dungeon, you bet your ass your companions have something to say about that. Some NPC just said something to you. You bet your ass that your companions have something to say about that. Now, a few NPCs don't have these dialogues, but for the most part, these dialogues do happen, and really often. And these dialogues are really cool and they are really funny sometimes. Unfortunately, it seems that in the newest remake, that functionality is changed for more guidance, for more hand-holding. They are using the party chat, the party talk function to give the player more guidance. Like I said, a travesty. They are literally babyfying this game, and it's a shame, because I do believe that this was the most mature game of the entire Dragon Quest games. This was the closest Dragon Quest went to being a seinen, to being Berserk, for example, even though it isn't Berserk. But it felt like this game actually respected its audience. This game actually treats you like an adult, and the demakes treat you like a baby, and you probably are a fucking baby if you can't handle this game. That's the truth. Now, it's perfectly fine if you don't like the game. You don't have to like everything. But if you're one of those people that don't like the game but are actually actively trying to change the game, then fuck you. You don't deserve my respect. I can't respect that, because I don't want people coming to my entertainment, to the things that I like, and push to change them. It's like allowing someone into your house and letting them change the decoration of your house because they don't like your own decoration. Will you allow that? Of course not. Fuck them, and fuck these people that are pushing to change Dragon Quest VII. Fuck you. You don't belong here, bitch. Oh, you're gatekeeping. I am fucking gatekeeping, and we need to gatekeep these fucking idiots. We need to gatekeep these absolute spawns of evil from our entertainment, and they come in different flavors. You need to train your pattern recognition so you actually are able to find them, to identify them. Dragon Quest VII, the original Dragon Warrior VII, has these two side activities that are pretty cool. You need to understand Dragon Quest VII is a big game. It doesn't really need a ton of side content because the game is already big enough in itself. So they have this immigrant town where you can recruit people to live in, and whenever you recruit more people, this town starts to change, and this town can get these different final forms. You can get a casino, you can get a really big mall, or you can get the standard town, depending on the immigrants that you take into your town. and it's a pretty decent mechanic, especially because it pays off. If you actually work for it, you can buy the best gear in the game if you allow your town to become this big mall, or you can get the best casino in the game if you allow certain type of immigrants to come by and they change this town into a big casino. So it pays off. This mechanic pays off. The only complaint I have about this mechanic is that, again, it's too grindy. The reality is that it should have been easier to find these immigrants, especially the encounter rate of these immigrants gets lower the more immigrants you have in your town. That doesn't make sense. It's a mechanic that punishes the player. I don't like that. So I don't know if they changed this in the 3DS version, and if they made it better, I hope so. But in the newest demake they just said, fuck this shit, let's get rid of this town, and you can no longer participate in the immigrant town side activity. There is also this other, it's a very similar thing. It's essentially an immigrant town for monsters, which is the Monster Park, or in the 3DS version the Monster Miados, which, if you don't understand, in Mexican, Miados is like saying peace, so that was a pun, the Monster Miados. So you have these Monster Miados, and these Monster Miados allow you to recruit monsters into this kind of like a zoo. But the problem with that is that it doesn't serve any purpose. It doesn't. In the original game, it doesn't really serve any purpose. People try to argue that the purpose of this was to make you encounter monster hearts easily. The reality is that it isn't the case. This activity is just there for you to do it if you want to collect all of the monsters, but it doesn't have a purpose. In the 3DS version, it actually serves a purpose and helps you find monster hearts easily with the whole monster tablet mechanic, which is a good addition to the game. And this is why, again, I wish they took the best parts of both games, made a third and definitive version of the game in a fully 3D environment to be really immersive. Imagine if you could experience the story of this game the way you experienced Dragon Quest VIII. Just imagine that. And we got robbed of that. You need to understand, we got robbed. The complainers, the whiny bitches that don't like this game, robbed us from that experience. And this is why you need to be mad. This is why you need to be mad that they keep destroying this game. This is also why Dragon Quest VIII is a very popular game, because Dragon Quest VIII came after Dragon Quest VII. That's fucking obvious, right? So, but the point is that the change from Dragon Quest VII going to Dragon Quest VIII, it was like going from A Link to the Past to Ocarina of Time. This is why Dragon Quest VIII is a really amazing game, and if you think Dragon Quest VIII is the best in the series, go ahead. I don't have a problem with that, because I do like Dragon Quest VIII a lot. And you know why? Because Dragon Quest VIII was everything I expected a Dragon Quest in fully 3D third-person view would be. It was everything and probably more. Dragon Quest XI doesn't come near to the grandeur of Dragon Quest VIII. Dragon Quest VIII is another masterpiece. Dragon Quest XI is a piece of shit. Dragon Quest VIII is how a Dragon Quest in 3D must be. And it's pretty sad that SquareEnix hasn't been able to surpass Dragon Quest VIII. Goes to show how much of a piece of shit as SquareEnix are. It's a shame. Dragon Warrior VII in the PS1 remains the best version of the game. And if you want to experience the real game, the grittiness, the bleak, the darkness, the real story, the adventure, because this game is an actual adventure. If you want to explore, if you want to find out, then you must play the original version. If you have played only the demakes, and if you plan to play the newest demake, if you have only played any of those, let me tell you something. You haven't experienced Dragon Quest VII. You haven't.